There has been a dramatic rise over the last 2 decades in diagnoses of Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. What that means is that people are more and more needing other trusted family members or friends to make decisions for them in a very formal way, often called guardianship or conservatorship. Something else has been happening in the last 2 decades. We are more mobile as a society. So these days, it's nothing to have two parents who have children all over the different parts of the United States. So when you put those things together, that means that more and more we're having to transfer a guardianship or a conservatorship from one state to another. I've had people come into my office and ask, how does this process even work? Circumstances have changed and we need to make this happen. And I've talked them through it, and I just want to give you a quick rundown of how that goes. My name is Patrick Cawley. I'm an estate planning and elder law attorney with Keystone Elder Law in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Here is how this has worked for clients who come in to see me. First of all, you should know there's what we call a uniform law, which is a concept that gets shopped around to the various state legislatures, and they adopt as close as possible the same language into the state law because all the states really need to work together on this because of how mobile people have become. So one other thing you should know is that guardianship and conservatorship exists because someone has been deemed to be vulnerable in some way. So this is taken really seriously. So the courts take a very close look at things like, will continued health care go on without too many disruptions? Will finances be guarded? Is this guardianship or conservatorship being moved as a way to get around those protections that we have for vulnerable people? So at each step of this process, keep in mind that you want to go out of your way to provide a showing of evidence to the court in both states to assure them that all healthcare and financial decisions are going to be at the utmost level of protection and integrity for the vulnerable person. But here's the process. It's a 4-step process. You start in the state where the guardianship or conservatorship currently is. So it was granted or allowed by a court in the first state. You go to that court and you file a petition to transfer the guardianship. And what that court will do, if the court is satisfied that everything will be on the up and up and the vulnerable person will continue to be protected, the court issues a provisional order. It's essentially saying we're okay with the transfer as long as the next state where this is going is okay with it. So you take the first court's provisional order and you go to the second state. You file a petition there asking for the same thing. And upon the same showing of evidence, the court will be satisfied that everything is legitimate and this vulnerable person will continue to have their best interests served by this transfer. So that second court issues a provisional order that says to the first state, we're okay with this if you're okay with this. So you go back to the first state with the provisional order from the second state. And so the transferring state says, okay, here's a final order. We are transferring the guardianship or conservatorship from our state to the state where this is being moved. And then finally, in the fourth step, you take the final order from the transferring state to the destination state, and you get a final order accepting the guardianship or conservatorship, and then everything is done by the rules of the state where it has been transferred. So there's probably an annual or otherwise some periodic reporting to the state that must be done about all healthcare decisions, visitation with the incapacitated person, any financial decisions, any money of that person that has been spent, hopefully on their own best interests. So whatever the rules were in the former state, you need to know the rules of the second state as far as making reports to the state to let them know that the guardianship is working the way it's supposed to work. If you have any other questions about how this works, how to transfer guardianship or conservatorship from one state to the other, shoot us an email at info@keystoneelderlaw.com or give us a call 717-697-3223.